Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So this video is somewhat of a preview for Lukasz Rozanski versus Alen Babic. This fight goes down this weekend, takes place on the 22nd of April, and it goes down in Poland. In the UK, this fight will be televised by Sky Sports. Now, this fight has gone under the radar for obvious reasons. Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia is this weekend. That is the biggest fight of the year so far, I would say. So that fight is hogging all of the limelight. However, this fight right here is going to be fan-friendly, it's going to be violent, and I would imagine that somebody's going to end up on their back at the end of it. Really interesting fight, fan-friendly fight. Are either of these guys world class? No, they're not in my opinion, but, you know, stylistically they are both very aggressive, both short, stocky, compact guys who like to throw punches up close. It's going to be a war, and by the way, this fight is for the vacant WBC Bridgerweight title, so there's that as well. It is a world title fight. I know most people don't recognise the Bridgerweight division, but that is what it is. We're here to talk about the fight. Now, of course I've seen both guys fight. I'm more familiar with Alen Babic, of course, but I have seen Lukasz Rozanski fight. Most notably, Lukasz Rozanski beat a guy called Izu Ogono at heavyweight. At one point in time, Izu Ogono was being hyped up to be a future heavyweight contender. Lukasz Rozanski stopped him in 4 rounds, really swarmed Izu Ogono, and eventually knocked him out in the 4th round. He also knocked out his countryman Artur Szpilka in his last fight. Those are the most notable names on his resume. Aside from that, he's fought notable journeymen like Albert Sosnowski, even Michael Sprott, believe it or not. So his resume's not deep, but he's beat Artur Szpilka, the remains of Artur Szpilka, and he beat Izu Ogono as well, both by stoppage. Primarily, Lukasz Rozanski was a heavyweight fighter, but he went down to Bridgerweight quite recently. As for Alen Babic, I mean, Babic has kind of flirted with cruiserweight, heavyweight, now Bridgerweight. We all know what Alen Babic brings to the table. He's 100 miles an hour, throws a lot of punches per round, he loads up on every single shot more or less, likes to hook to body and head, and throw combinations up close. He basically tries to overwhelm you and drown you in a sea of punches. Similar to Lukasz Rozanski, but I'll get onto that stylistic clash in a minute. Alen Babic, much like Lukasz Rozanski, hasn't fought the greatest level of competition. Babic has fought heavyweight journeymen, guys like Tom Little, for example. He fought the corpse of Eric Molina, David Spielmont, a tough French journeyman, and in his last fight he fought Adam Bałski, who had a record of 16-1. So there's not really too much to report on Alen Babic's resume either. However, I will say this: I've seen more holes in Alen Babic at his level of competition than I've seen in Lukasz Rozanski. Not that Rozanski is anything special, but from what I've seen of him, he's been far more dominant in his fights. Seems to be a harder puncher. He seems to maintain better punch technique when he throws combinations, when he's on the inside. And both of these guys are very, very similar fighters, as in, both guys like to come forwards, they like to be aggressive, they like to throw punches in bunches. However, one thing I will say, Lukasz Rozanski, in my opinion, defensively he's more astute. Not that he's like fucking Floyd Mayweather, but defensively he is more astute. He fights in more of a crouch, he tucks up better. He does have a bit of an active guard going. He can block shots, parry shots, and come back with his own. He can counter in exchanges, whereas Babic just unloads and that's it, you know? Babic doesn't really have any subtleties to his approach, his aggressive approach, whereas Rozanski has a few. Like I say, defensively he's cuter, more compact, he can catch and parry, things of that nature, and his punch technique is just better. Primarily both of these guys more or less throw crooked arm punches. Rozanski's uppercuts, his hooks are far more tight. He turns over on those shots really well. I think he gets better leverage in those shots. Not only that, Lukasz Rozanski has a better jab coming in as he's closing the gap. He'll fight out of that guard, ramrod jab, and he'll close the distance and he'll try and get inside. Also, I'll say, to me, Lukasz Rozanski looks like the faster-handed guy. I say these guys are similar. When I say that, they're similar in regards to both being aggressive, both guys like throwing combinations, but to me, Lukasz Rozanski looks better put together, to be honest. If I were to compare Lukasz Rozanski's style to anybody's, it would be somebody like Andy Ruiz. I'm not saying he's as good or as talented as Andy Ruiz. Think of him as a poor man's Andy Ruiz, if you will. But he's got more skills than Alen Babic, as far as I can see. One issue, however, is that Lukasz Rozanski has been very inactive in recent times. He last fought in May, 30th of May, 2021. That's when he fought Artur Szpilka. So by the time this fight comes around, he's nearly been out of the ring for 2 years. And even in 2020, he only fought twice in 2 6-rounders where he got 4 rounds of action. So the last 3 or 4 years, Rozanski has been very inactive. And of course that could be a factor. And I don't have it in front of me, but I'm sure Lukasz Rozanski is in his mid to late 30s. I might be wrong on that, but he's no spring chicken. So the inactivity of Lukasz Rozanski might be a problem for him, especially if it goes a few rounds. Babic, however, hasn't been the most active. He only fought once last year. That was against Adam Bolski. That was on the 21st of May, 2022. But he got 10 rounds of action. And before that, he fought 4 times in 2021. So in recent years, Alen Babic has been far more active. We know he's been in top training camps. So activity-wise, Alen Babic has it on his side. Aside from that, both guys are similar stature. Babic is 6'1". Rozanski is listed as 6'1". He looks a bit shorter than that to me. But both guys are a similar size, stocky bridgerweights, and both guys like to be very aggressive. Now, if this fight happened 2 years ago, I'd be very confidently picking Lukasz Rozanski. However, again, he's been out of the ring for 2 years. He's in his mid to late 30s. He's actually 37. I've just checked it now. So I'm not really sure where he's at right now. And to me at least, that gives Alen Babic a chance in this fight. But having said all that, when I look at these two fighters, again, not that Lukasz Rozanski is anything special, because he's not, but I see a more skilled fighter in Lukasz Rozanski. I see a guy with quicker hands. I see a guy who pays more attention to defense, a guy who puts his shots together better, and a guy who can catch and counter sometimes. Overall, he just looks like the more skilled fighter. So I think this fight is going to be a war. I do. But I've got Lukasz Rozanski winning this fight. I believe he's going to stop Alen Babic late here. Maybe on points, but I'm going to say stoppage. Fuck it. I'm going to say a late stoppage for Lukasz Rozanski. It's going to be a war. This one's going to be on Sky Sports. So if you're in, it's definitely worth a watch in my opinion. But yeah, a bit of a random fight to do a preview on, but I thought why not? It's a good fight. It's going to be fun. So why not talk about it? Anyway, share your thoughts below. Beanie Guy Del Boy. Peace.